So, we finally have the official roadmap for GPT-5. And honestly, I'm really excited to talk about this because, for once, we're not just dealing with random speculation or rumors. This time, we actually have a clear, structured roadmap that lays everything out, giving us a solid understanding of what's coming next. All right, let's not waste any time and jump straight into how GPT-5 is going to be deployed. There's actually some really interesting information here that gives us a glimpse into the future of AI systems. A few hours ago, Sam Altman tweeted an official roadmap update for GPT 4.5 and GPT 5. He mentioned that they want to do a better job of communicating their plans and simplifying the product lineup. Essentially, they're realizing that AI should just work for users without all the unnecessary complexity. If you've used ChatGPT before, especially if you're paying for the highest tier subscription, you probably know how confusing things have become. Right now, the model and product offerings are all over the place, and that's exactly what I'm going to break down for you. When you open ChatGPT, it looks pretty simple at first, but as soon as you click this drop-down menu, things get a bit complicated. Now, depending on your layout, you might see something different, but for me, I have a ton of options: GPT-4, GPT-4 Turbo, several mini versions, and even a temporary chat mode. In total, there are about 9 choices. The problem? Analysis paralysis. With so many options, users struggle to decide which one to use. Should they pick GPT-4 for general questions? What about GPT-4 Turbo, or one of the mini versions? It's overwhelming. In product design, there's a golden rule. Too many choices can hurt usability. If people are confused about which option to pick, they might give up altogether. And that's exactly the issue here. ChatGPT's current setup is too complex for the average user. Now, for someone like me who knows exactly what I need for each task, having multiple options is great. But for most users, it's more of a drawback than a benefit. That's why OpenAI is planning to simplify this system in a really interesting way, which I'll explain in just a moment. This is the part where they admit they dislike the model picker just as much as we do. They're even considering bringing back Magic Unified Intelligence. I believe one of the ways they're working toward a more unified machine intelligence is through something called a router LLM. Now, it's not exactly a framework, but rather a method for setting up LLMs in a way that makes things much more efficient. Here's how it works. You start with a user prompt. So, for example, you might ask, "What's the weather today?" Instead of just sending this request to a single model, a router analyzes every incoming prompt. It looks at factors like cost, latency, and complexity to decide where to send it. If the question is simple, like which came first, the chicken or the egg, the router directs it to a lightweight model that can respond almost instantly. But if it's a complex question that requires deep reasoning, it gets sent to a more powerful LLM that takes longer to process. Finally, once the model processes the request, you get a system response. This isn't just a theoretical idea. Companies have already tested similar routing systems, and the results have been impressive. In some cases, this approach has cut costs by around 85%, making AI responses both faster and more affordable. As you can see here, one of their main goals is to unify the O-series models with the GPT series. They want to create a system that can seamlessly use all their tools, decide when to take its time thinking, and be generally useful across a wide range of tasks. Like I mentioned earlier with the Route LLM framework, it's looking more and more like we're heading toward an all-in-one system. Future models will likely be designed as a single, unified system rather than separate, distinct versions. Now, there might still be different tiers, like O3 Mini or O3 High, but overall, the trend seems to be moving toward one large model, or a coordinated set of LLMs, that offers a unified level of intelligence. And depending on your subscription tier, you'll get different levels of access. For example, if you're paying $200 a month, you might get full access to the model's advanced reasoning capabilities, essentially, its entire brain. But if you're using the free version, you might only get a limited number of queries per day, maybe 10 to 20 at most. This approach makes a lot more sense than maintaining 6 separate models. It simplifies everything, making it easier to manage and deploy. Plus, when competitors release their own models, OpenAI can confidently position theirs as the superior, all-in-one solution, which is great for their branding. OpenAI has confirmed that GPT-5 will integrate a lot of their existing technology, including Model 03. They mentioned that 03 will no longer be released as a standalone model, meaning GPT-5 will likely absorb it as part of its overall architecture. From what they've shared, it seems like GPT-5 won't just be a single model, but rather a system composed of multiple models, possibly including 03 and 01, working together. This makes things really interesting because it suggests GPT-5 could be a more advanced, multifaceted AI system, rather than just an upgraded version of previous models. Sam Altman also made a really intriguing statement. He hinted that GPT-5 will integrate many of OpenAI's technologies, but it's unclear if that includes everything they've developed so far. He previously mentioned that OpenAI is set to release something this year that nobody has even thought of yet, which makes me wonder what exactly they have planned. It's also possible that GPT-5 will function as more than just a chatbot. It might even take the form of an AI-powered agent, potentially rebranded under a new name. That idea is super exciting because it makes me think, what will the final version of GPT-5 actually look like? We already know it's going to be incredibly powerful, but the way they're describing it suggests it could be something far beyond what we're expecting. So they did mention that they're planning to ship GPT-5 next, but before that, they'll release GPT 4.5, internally known as Orion. They also said that this will be their last non-chain of thought model. What does that mean? Basically, it's the last model trained using the traditional approach, where they gather massive amounts of data, feed it into the model, train it, then go through post-training, fine-tuning, and all the usual steps. This is how models like GPT-4 and its variations were built. But now, things are shifting. We're moving into a new era of model training, and GPT 4.5 will likely be the last of its kind before OpenAI fully embraces this new method. Now, if I had to guess, I'd say GPT 4.5 will be on par with, or slightly better than Claude 3.5 Sonnet. Not drastically better, but enough to make a noticeable difference. Claude 3.5 is already incredibly good, but there's something about using it that makes it feel smarter, like it really understands context better than some benchmarks suggest. So, I think OpenAI's goal with GPT 4.5 is to edge out Claude 3.5 Sonnet, maybe even Claude 3.6. And from what we know, Orion was already considered a powerful model internally. The only reason they didn't release it earlier was because of its high inference costs. It was just too expensive to run at scale. But as we've seen time and time again, inference costs drop over time. Just yesterday, we talked about Sam Altman mentioning how these costs improve significantly every 12 months. So it seems like now is finally the right time for OpenAI to bring Orion, GPT 4.5, to the public. The cost of running large language models tends to drop by about 10 times over time. So it's very likely that in the past few months, since they finished training this model and completed all the safety testing, the cost of inference has gone down significantly. At this point, it's probably affordable enough for them to release it. Now, if we talk about the expected launch timeframe, so when can we expect this model to drop? We're talking weeks, maybe months. That's what Chubby mentioned. Any update on when GPT 4.5 or GPT 5 is coming? Well, for GPT 4.5, I think it's likely going to be released within the next few weeks. My guess is that we'll see it by the end of March. As for GPT 5, I'm thinking it could be around the end of Q2 or maybe by the end of Q3. But honestly, that's just my best guess at this point. So, if you're wondering when the next models are coming, that's the time frame I'm looking at for now. For free users, ChatGPT's free tier is going to offer unlimited access to GPT-5, but with a standard intelligence setting. Just to clarify, this means it won't be at the highest intelligence level, so don't expect it to have super advanced thought chains or anything like GPT-4. While it won't be tapping into the most sophisticated levels of AI, this is still a big step forward. It's interesting because with DeepSeek, they essentially gave away incredibly high-level intelligence at a fraction of the cost. This made it much more affordable for people to use DeepSeek compared to other options, which is pretty intriguing. Don't forget like and subscribe this channel for more updates. See you in next part.